Good afternoon, good evening, and great to be with you. My name is Cameron Bard, and I'm one of the 12 founding co-chairs of Clean Energy for Biden. We are just 5 days away from the most important and consequential election of our lifetimes. This is not hyperbole. This is reality. Because when it comes to climate change and so many other critical issues, the stakes are higher now than ever before. Clean Energy for Biden is a volunteer network of clean economy business leaders, climate activists, and passionate rabble-rousers united and organized to elect Joe Biden as president. We deeply understand the immediacy of climate change, and we deeply believe in the role of clean energy to help us build back better. The election this year, climate is on the ballot. The environment is on the ballot. Clean energy is on the ballot. And thankfully, Joe Biden is too. So why are we here in this moment together right now? We're here for two reasons. The first, to acknowledge and to celebrate and honor the work and success of Clean Energy for Biden, but most importantly, to unveil our final 5-day Get Out the Vote action plan. We launched Clean Energy for Biden this past April with a hope and a dream of making an impact this campaign through fundraising and voter participation. Flash forward to today, and we hope our numbers speak for themselves. We're now a thriving community of over 10,000 members from all 50 states. We've held hundreds of fundraisers and Get Out the Vote events. We've collectively raised millions of dollars for the Biden campaign. Tonight, you're going to hear about the individuals and teams behind these efforts. You're going to see the faces of our grassroots leaders who have thrown themselves into this campaign with enthusiasm, gusto, and creativity. On a personal note, it's the beauty and the organized chaos of our community that keeps me sane, keeps me motivated, and keeps me feeling hopeful. If this is your first event with Clean Energy for Biden, welcome. You are now a part of our loud and boisterous family. But let's be clear, we have a lot of work to do. Today is the end of the beginning, the kickoff of the home stretch, and the launch of our final 5-day Get Out the Vote plan. We've organized new phone banking events starting tomorrow, ready for you to pour your heart and soul into the work through Tuesday. Yes, we are seeing record turnout, and we're seeing early voting surge in crucial swing states. But the votes coming in now are the reliable ones. The hard votes are still out there, and they're waiting for a phone call from you. We can do this, but it's not going to happen on its own. Blood, sweat, tears, and phone calls. That's how we win. Beautiful, organized chaos. We have 5 days to make an impact. 5 days to ensure we wake up on November 4th with no regrets. 5 days to restore the soul of our nation. I am so thrilled to keep the momentum going and hand this off to the other speakers, including my fellow co-chairs, a handful of sensational governors and leaders, progressive luminaries, and of course, my hero, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who will be closing us out. So stick around, enjoy, and let's get to work. First up, Clean Energy for Biden's very own Executive Council member and my good friend, Jigar Shah.
Thank you, Cam. It was such a great experience to be part of this from the early days. I think that Nidhi Tucker had called me and said, you must be a part of this. And I have to say, being in a coronavirus, sort of locked into my house, I just realized that I had to put my energy into something. And this was a great thing to put our energy into. And what a campaign it's been. It has been so rewarding and so amazing. The energy industry in the United States employs 6.4 million people, according to the Department of Energy. About half of those people work in clean energy. I cannot begin to say how important this is to all of those people. When you think about what they do on a day-to-day basis, bringing electric vehicles to the masses and inspiring Governor Newsom to ban internal combustion engines in California by 2035. When you think about all the groundbreaking work that we're doing at the state levels, which are the laboratories of our democracy, and then to have Vice President Biden come in with a $2 trillion plan over 4 years, it is just amazing. We are ready to go. We are making phone calls. We are texting. We are doing what it takes to get Vice President Biden and Kamala Harris elected. But we all can do more. There's more for us to do, and there's more for us to show. There's more for us to explain to our fellow Americans and stakeholders around what we can do. So thank you, everyone, for joining. And thank you for all you've done. We have more to do. And I look forward to seeing how how much more we can do in seeing Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in the White House.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited that you're here with us tonight to kick off this incredible final 5 days of GOTV. My name is Maggie Thomas, and I'm one of the national co-chairs of CE4B. Tonight, you're going to hear from an absolute star-studded lineup of climate leaders at the highest levels of our government. We're going to hear from Governor Whitmer, Governor Lujan Grisham, Governor Newsom, Governor Jay Inslee, and Speaker Pelosi. But we're not stopping there. We're also going to hear from Pod Save America's Jon Favreau and the other Veep, Julia Louis-Dreyfus. But leadership isn't just about serving at the highest levels of our government. If we're going to achieve Vice President Biden's historic Build Back Better clean energy agenda, it's going to take leaders across the clean energy sector. And that's exactly why CE4B's state and affinity teams are the heart and soul of this organization. Tonight, we're going to be telling you just a few of the incredible stories from CE4B's grassroots membership and giving shout outs throughout this event so you all can hear about the momentum we've created and will continue to create. To start, I specifically wanted to shout out the CE4B Missouri chapter, which helped to mobilize their current clean tech workforce by training solar workers how to vote. And now, I have the great honor to introduce my former boss, Governor Jay Inslee. The governor's staff did send along a bio, but I thought I'd take some artistic liberties and tell you all a story that many of you don't know from way back in 2019 when Governor Jay Inslee was running for president on a campaign platform of bold and ambitious climate action. All right, I'm not actually going to do that because I couldn't decide between the time he filibustered a finance meeting and instead we all went and got milkshakes, or the time that Joe Biden's Build Back Better plan wholesale adopted the governor's 2035 clean electricity standard. You may know that wonky detail as the one that's going to be responsible for cleaning up our grid. The governor needs no introduction. You know him as the guy who changed the game for climate in the 2020 Democratic primary, and I know him as an incredible boss and mentor. Gov, take it away.
Maggie, I can't tell you how thrilled I am to see you in a position of national leadership. I can't tell you how thrilled I am to be involved in this group. This is a noble cause. I always believe it's a great day when you're involved in a noble cause. And so I really appreciate it. I don't know if I'm muted yet or not. Let's see. How's that? Is that working now, Maggie?
You're doing great.
So these are great days. I know that's hard to say that in the middle of a pandemic, but these are great days. And they are great days because the greatest of days is when you can be involved in a noble cause with people that you trust and you can link arms with, and that's what we're doing. And this is a noble cause. Seldom has there been a cause that means so much to so many for so long. And we have one of the most precious things in life, which is an opportunity to make a huge difference in the next several days. So I'm thrilled to be with you, and I just want to add 3 things to our discussion. Number one, I want to mention the nature of our cause. It is based on science, and it is based on the human intellect and the belief that science can advance our cause. And this has been a cause that started with Galileo and Copernicus and went up through Edison and Einstein, and we may not have any of their intellectual abilities, but we know we are fighting the forces of darkness who want to be driven by ideology and special interests and narrow interests rather than the common good based on science. And I just want to put this cause in that perspective, that this is built on centuries that started with the Enlightenment and the Renaissance. That's what we're up to in this cause. And it is under attack by the Trump folks. I'm running against one here in this state, and we are not going backwards. We're advancing science. Second, this cause is based on courage. And I want to mention this. I saw courage big time in the last debate. Thank goodness somebody asked a climate change question, which was long overdue, of course. And when I heard Vice President Biden step up and say, with absolute conviction and resolution and clarity of vision, that we are going to make a transition over the decades to a clean energy economy, that was courage in its most important form. And I have been waiting for that for a long, long time. I know all of us have. And we now have a leader who has put his shoulder to the wheel and his spine behind this effort. And there should be no doubt about Joe Biden's conviction on this matter and his willingness to scale the heights. We saw that in that clarity, that moment of clarity in the debate. And we've seen that in the third point that I want to make, is that this effort to elect Joe Biden is built on a solid plan, a solid, achievable plan that is comprehensive, that is robust, that is appropriately ambitious to the moment, but also achievable. This is an achievable plan that he has put forward, both politically and economically. It is achievable economically because of the amazing technological advances taking place. I started to think our movement arrived when I saw a commercial 2 days after the last presidential debate that announced that they're going to make an electric Hummer. We have arrived. So economically, this is very achievable. Politically, it is achievable because we now are based on an issue that is no longer based on graphs or charts or the third law of thermodynamics. It's based on people seeing the fires in California and the hurricanes in Louisiana and the floods in Iowa and the sea level rise in Miami. People are thirsty for this. So we have a magic moment where we have the science behind us. We have a leader with tremendous courage. We have a plan that is robust, bold, and achievable. All we need is a few more votes. And that's where all of us come in. And I know everybody's been working for months on multiple causes. But and you may have heard this one before, but I'll repeat it. My dad was an old coach and teacher. He was a track coach. And his best advice he ever gave to his runners were, fellas, run through the tape. Don't stop at the finish line. And we all have to run through the tape. And I believe that we will do that. And I believe the people on this call will do that. And I want to note that when we run through the tape, we do so for more than Joe Biden. Joe Biden is the tip of the spear. But behind him are thousands of people united in this cause, running for city council, county council, state legislators, the U.S. Senate, and the U.S. House of Representatives, and some governor spots. And whatever you do in the next few days for Joe Biden, you're doing it for those positions that are just as important. And frankly, they are. Look, we have Michelle Lujan Grisham and Gretchen Whitmer and Governor Brown because we had people running through the tape in those races as well. And we know what we can do at the state level. I'm proud of our state that we've developed the best 100% clean energy grid bill that Joe Biden's now going to make national policy, the best energy efficiency bill. Governor Brown has done incredible work in California on electrifying our transportation system. Whitmer and Lujan Grisham and the development of the wind industry. Governors can do a lot. Legislators can do a lot. And I hope that your efforts will be engaged with their noble cause as well. So I want to thank you. I want to encourage you. I'd like to shake all of your hands. I want to tell you that there's a lot of heroes on this call. I saw Dan Riker's picture. I saw Karen Wayland. But you're all heroes. And in this victory party, you're going to be part of this. Maggie Thomas, who introduced me, played a part of this. She helped me when I was running for the top office in the land. And Maggie's ideas are going to be in the White House with Joe Biden, I believe, because of the work we're going to do in the next several days. So thank you so much. Early to bed, early to rise, work like hell and organize. Let's go win one. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Corey Connolly. I am a co-lead for the Clean Energy for Biden chapter in Michigan. Just as the clean energy industry has done all over the country, the clean energy industry has shown up in Michigan because we know that Joe Biden will help Michigan's clean energy economy and electric vehicle industry address climate change. And because we know that Michigan is super important for this election. Our chapter in Michigan has more than 100 volunteers from all over the clean energy industry. Earlier this month, 50 of those clean energy business leaders released a public letter endorsing Joe Biden for president. We've also made thousands of phone calls and raised $140,000, thanks in large part to the participation in a fundraiser by Governor Gretchen Whitmer. My day job is to do policy for a trade association that represents 120 companies in the clean energy sector in Michigan. I've seen the impact of Governor Whitmer's leadership on the industry day in and day out. Since taking office, she's appointed clean energy leaders to important positions, made it easier for farmers across Michigan to take advantage of solar, signed Michigan onto the U.S. Climate Alliance, and just last month, she issued an executive director to launch the My Healthy Climate Plan to put Michigan on a path to carbon neutrality. Obviously, we all want to elect Joe Biden because we all know that leadership matters. I'm lucky to have a governor that shows what type of progress we can expect when we have the right leadership. And with that, it's my pleasure and honor to introduce Governor Gretchen Whitmer and ask her to come on video.
Hi, it sounds like we've got a little bit of a delay with the governor, and we just need to move on to the next segment.
Hi, I'm Alex McDonough, a co-chair of Clean Energy for Biden. CE4B members are passionate about good policy. We're going to the mat to elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris because they have a positive vision for our country and an equitable clean energy future that we're willing to fight for. Over 200 CE4B members with 2,000 years of collective professional experience work together to develop our Building Back Better policy memo, including 175 recommendations for a possible incoming Biden administration. I want to give a special shout out to the Transportation Affinity Group and the Women's CE4B Affinity Group, who authored and coordinated dozens of policy recommendations for this effort. These experts and professionals developed proposals to arm policymakers with ideas to throttle our clean energy economy forward. From workforce development and job creating investments to environmental justice, innovation, and clean transportation. Stay tuned for the release of these recommendations after the election at cleanenergyforbiden.com. And please register for our post-election policy summit. So now, I'm excited to introduce the next speaker, Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham. She's a climate leader who has worked hard to place New Mexico at the forefront of creating green jobs, passing one of the nation's first 100% clean energy standards at a time when our country's leadership has fallen dangerously behind on climate. She's gone to bat for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and we were honored to have her keynote a CE4B hosted fundraiser in July organized by our fabulous DMV team. And now I'm pleased to present Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham.
Good evening. I'm Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham of the great state of New Mexico, and it is an honor to be here tonight with you, our nation's clean energy pioneers. Clean Energy for Biden knows that when we elect Joe Biden, we will elect a president that will set the foundation for America's clean energy future. As this week has shown, Joe Biden is fearlessly committed to tackling the existential threat of climate change. Vice President Biden understands that clean energy is the foundation from which we will restore our economy. With less than 1 week remaining, we must remember the urgency of this moment. Addressing climate change is a moral imperative that simply cannot wait. For the past 2 years, New Mexico has been on the front lines of the climate crisis. I am proud that one of my administration's first acts established New Mexico's Climate Task Force and committed our state to the United States Climate Alliance. Just 2 months later, we passed the landmark Energy Transition Act. The ETA set New Mexico on a course to 100% clean energy by 2045 and established a model pathway for clean energy development that invested in our sovereign nations and our rural communities. New Mexico is in this fight because we know the stakes. This year, as the West was engulfed in forest fires, farmers in the Southwest faced the consequences of another dry monsoon season, and our Gulf communities were battered by flooding at the hands of historic hurricanes. We know that the United States is facing a climate crisis that cannot be denied without catastrophic results. It must be addressed today. Tackling climate change will provide a generational economic opportunity that can and will revitalize rural America, that can bring investment and support to communities of color. This is our opportunity to address a crisis with global consequences while rebuilding our economy the right way. Vice President Biden's plan is groundbreaking in its vision to close the systemic racial and economic gaps that continue to separate communities throughout America. This is a historic investment, $2 trillion over 4 years, with 40% dedicated to marginalized communities. With your help, Vice President Biden is on the verge of establishing an administration with an unparalleled commitment to solving the climate crisis. As you hear from Governor Inslee and Governor Newsom, you may notice a common thread. Democratic governors across this nation are excited to have a federal partner that believes in this crisis and the need to immediately address it. We are ready from day one to begin our nation's most ambitious economic investment in recent history. But to get there, we need to elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. We need an administration that will exercise American leadership on the most important crisis facing our world. During my address to the Democratic National Convention, I made clear that when we elect Joe Biden, we will end 2 existential threats to our nation: the climate crisis and the Trump presidency. I am proud to be in this fight with you. Thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm back again, and this time I get the honor of actually kicking it over to Governor Gretchen Whitmer.
Hi everyone, I am so pleased to be here with all of you. I am so glad for the work that you are doing. You know, I ran for governor in 2018 because I am a proud Michigander, and this was a state that people used to flock to for opportunity. They came from Alabama or Tennessee or Lebanon, halfway around the world. People came to Michigan because Michigan, we had organized labor that built the middle class. And in Michigan, you knew you could get a good job, you could afford to raise a family and retire with dignity. Our state, we had excellent schools. So no matter what community you called home, your kids were going to get a great public education. We put the whole world on wheels. And we knew you could travel those roads and get to your destination safely. In the state that's home to 21% of the world's fresh surface water, you could confidently turn on your tap and bathe your children or give them a glass of water at the dinner table. Today's Michigan families deserve no less than the Michigan that I remember growing up in. But we're dangerously behind because Republicans both in our capital and in the nation's capital have let us down. We've got to change. We've got to be the change that we want to see on November 3rd. This crisis has shown us how important it is to have Democratic leadership at every level, to protect our public health, to build a more sustainable economy with a focus on clean energy, to help families put food on our tables, and to make government work and work for everyone and protect our right to vote. We've also seen that the health of our people goes hand in hand with the health of our economy. We need leaders who are going to focus on both. We've got a great Democratic ticket this year that shares all those values. And Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, we have candidates of tremendous integrity and experience and empathy, people who can heal our nation and bring us together and get us back on track. We've got to do everything we can to build a path to victory for all of our Democrats on the ballot this November. And just next week is when this election is. So this right now is a crucial time. I've been traveling our state and getting people fired up and getting them out and voting, because we can vote early now in Michigan. Because we know every one of us has a personal stake in this election. Affordable health care and Medicaid expansion are on this ballot. skills training and public education. It's on this ballot. LGBTQ rights are on this ballot. Clean drinking water is on this ballot. Climate change, women's right to autonomy, voting rights, all on this ballot. And better roads and affordable car insurance even, those basics, they're on this ballot too. So the phone calls, the donations, the networking, talking to your friends and family and neighbors about how important this is and making sure they know what a personal stake they have too, it's crucial. There are still people out there that they don't have a plan to vote. They maybe haven't thought about all the things that are on this ballot. They need us to remind them, to educate them, to inspire them, and to get them out. So thank you for everything that you've done to get us to this point. Let's get it over the finish line and run through the tape together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Governor Whitmer, for all you do. I'm Dan Riker, a Clean Energy for Biden co-chair and co-founder. I had the great honor of helping to launch CE4B on Earth Day 2020, and we couldn't have asked for a better liftoff. We built Clean Energy for Biden on lessons learned from our Tech Obama and Clean Tech for Hillary. The first thing we did was change tech, energy, because we were no longer an early stage technology play struggling to enter the mainstream. Clean energy has indeed entered mainstream with our days as, quote, alternative energy well behind us. In our March 2020 CE4B plan, we said that, quote, US clean tech has grown from a niche investment area to a full-fledged industry that includes millions of professionals and tradespeople who are mission aligned around the growth of clean energy. This fast-growing industry combines both financial strength and boots on the ground that can have significant impact in 2020. While environmental NGOs already play an important role in US electoral politics, when the clean energy industry flexes its political muscle, build new political support. Thanks to help from the Biden campaign's stellar finance team, we drew the man himself, Vice President Biden, as our Earth Day headliner. Our moderator was Mary Nichols, chair of the California Clean Air Resources Board, also known as the Queen of Green. I kicked off the event saying, quote, Mr. Vice President, at CE4B, we are committed to doing all we can to get you elected and putting the nation back on the climate and clean energy path that you and President Obama first, and then accelerating progress from there. We have asked for a bad launch on Earth Day. We had more than 300 attendees. The Vice President nailed 6 key questions from Mary, including a heartfelt answer about why he wanted to be president. We raised almost $400,000. And starting with just a handful of us on that April day, we've grown to more than 10,000 members, raising money, getting out the vote, and tuning up policy. The rest is history, and hopefully on Election Day, history book history, with a planet set on a path of climate progress and not peril, and a fast-growing US clean energy industry second to none. It is now my great pleasure to recognize Ian Adams, who will introduce a core element of CE4B's success, our state teams. Thanks very much.
Thanks a lot, Dan. Like Dan said, my name's Ian Adams. You know, Clean Energy for Biden has truly been an organic and grassroots effort, with so much enthusiasm and work pouring out of the 31 state and affinity group teams from around the nation. As a co-leader of the Midwest team, I saw firsthand this amazing work in action, raising money, engaging voters, and building a community to boot. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce Genevieve Nowicki, co-director of state teams and GOTV. Genevieve?
Hi, Ian. Thank you so much. First of all, I want to say thank you all who are out there on the state teams. You were the heart and soul of our community. Together with the 31 teams, raised 85% of the resources. They had great conversion events. They had great social media. They had great op-eds. And they stood up over 150 phone banks with thousands of callers and had an average of 19 phone banks a week. We're rocking it, and the campaign was so proud. They were really creative. They had bingo, they had happy hours, they had amazing speakers. And when we all did this together. When we started early in spring, Nathan brought us all together. Audrey was building the teams via LinkedIn. Dave was filling in the gaps. All these amazing people you see on this screen were part of building this team and building our state teams. And then Andrea did an amazing job with social media. Amazing job with doing relational organizing along with AID. And then Catherine and Chuck were our core for our training. And then we had great support from Mary, Dan, Cam, and Annalise on the back end for fundraising. The other thing I want to do is give a shout out to Clean Tech for Obama for originally providing us the list that Clean Energy for Biden was based on and then built on, went from 2,000 to 10,000. And then I also want to let you all know that at the end of this video, we're going to be showing all the names of the amazing state team leaders that show that they were the backbone of everything we did. The 31 state teams and affinity groups built this all together. But everyone's been working so hard. I need you all to work a little bit harder. We have 5 days left. For the last 4 ones, we need to kick it. I need you guys all to please sign up for at least 3 phone banks. I've been on phone banks with senior campaign staff over the years, with multimillionaires. We all need to get on the phones. We all need to call voters. We want to have no regrets November. But at the end of the day, it's going to be all about us and what we do. But I want to basically again say that the state teams were the heart and soul. Thank you guys all so much. You worked so hard. We had anywhere between 3 and 12 leaders, and then you had all your members. And I want everyone to see some of their amazing faces right now in this video. Thank you all so much.
Is energized, folks. We've had literally hundreds of clean energy pros from all 6 New England states sign on, exchange thousands of Slack messages organizing these events. We've had some great fundraisers with Mayor Pete Buttigieg, with Governor Janet Mills raising north of $70,000, and we are ready for victory November 3rd.
Efficiency has 2 million people working in every congressional district doing GOTV throughout the country. Our team raised well over $100,000 for the Biden-Harris campaign at just one of our CE4B events. Thank you.
Team Texas is over 300 strong. We hosted 6 events, including an inspirational Get Out the Vote panel with Wendy Davis. We raised over $51,000 with our main fundraiser starring Beto O'Rourke. And we hosted 2 events showcasing job opportunities that will be available in the clean energy economy. We're going to turn Texas blue.
New York has 500 members. We've held 7 events with 700 participants, raising over $475,000. We also launched an effort encouraging every member to reach out to 16 colleagues through Vote Joe.
As the Young Professionals Affinity Group, we focused on getting out the youth vote by engaging young clean tech professionals and college students in 4 events to fundraise and get out the vote.
The Equity, Inclusion, and Diversity Group was launched in June and has worked across CE4B.
We've worked across CE4B to increase diversity on our panels. With over 100 events, we've had a 50-50 gender split and a 30-70 split of BIPOC to white speakers.
We raised nearly $25,000 and engaged nearly 300 donors. But most importantly, we engaged nearly 200 startups in brainstorms around how to activate the startup community to get out the vote for the Biden campaign.
Women in Clean Energy for Biden. We are 878 women strong, scientists, economists, educators, lawyers, and more.
Iowa Clean Energy for Biden kicked off with an incredible event. We raised $22,000 for Joe and Kamala in this all-important battleground state.
And to get out the vote, we've had over 75 Rockstar volunteers make over 1,000 calls to Iowa voters. We're continuing to push our swing state blue, deliver a new Senate majority, and build on our clean energy leadership. So thank you for showing up.
Hi, everybody. I'm Karen Wayland, another CE4B co-chair. And that was a great video. I think we were all getting chills in the co-chairs chat we're having. And you're going to see more from the states and affinity group roll calls coming up. And then we'll hear from John Favreau, Governor Newsom, and a late-breaking surprise with Louis-Dreyfus. I want to give a shout out to the great state of Minnesota. This CE4B team grew to more than 700 members in the past 7 months and mobilized over 1,000 voters. They also created an amazing video that I hope you'll all go watch. They filmed a whole group of young Minnesotans who aren't old enough to vote yet, urging adults to go out and vote for Biden, saying we need someone who will actually take climate change seriously and that their future is in our hands. You can check out that great video and all of the videos you're seeing, plus the rest of the state and affinity team videos on a YouTube channel that we just launched. So if you go to YouTube and search for CE4B, you will find a whole set of videos documenting all the work that the CE4B volunteers have done. And if you want to specifically look for the Minnesota Youth group video, search for #YouthBeHeard. So with Trump in the White House, the states have had to take the lead on climate and clean energy policy. Jigger mentioned all the work that's happening in the states. And Alex described the work that the CE4B volunteers have done to develop critical policies necessary for clean energy that we are going to send to the Biden transition team if Joe wins next week. And if he wins, President Biden can start off on day one enacting some of those policies with executive action on climate change. But we need Congress to pass legislation for some of his clean energy and climate policies, like the clean energy standard. When I worked for Speaker Pelosi as her climate and energy advisor, she always said that combating climate change was a flagship issue for her. And in fact, during the first year of her speakership, she put climate change and healthcare as her top two priorities. But if she's going to be successful in driving the climate agenda in next year in 2021, she needs a partner in the White House and a different Senate to deliver on climate and clean energy policy. So don't take my word for the importance of having that partner in the White House. Here's Nancy Pelosi, the first and second Speaker of the House of Representatives and a climate champion in her own right, telling us why it's so critical for us to vote for Joe Biden.
Hello, friends. As House Speaker, it is my honor to bring greetings from all House Democrats to Clean Energy for Biden during your Capstone Rally. We're in the final stretch, just 5 days from the most consequential election of our lifetime. We must whip the lead in the stretch. Everything is at stake on Tuesday, from crushing the coronavirus to advancing racial justice and voting rights, to expanding access to healthcare and good-paying jobs, and to combating the climate crisis and saving our planet. We know the climate crisis is the existential threat of our time, jeopardizing America's public health, jobs, and preeminence in green technologies, national security, and moral obligation to be good stewards of God's creation. There is no planet B, and that's why our House Democratic majority has led a relentless drumbeat of climate action, including passing Climate Action Now to keep us in the Paris Agreement and releasing the most detailed, sweeping climate plan seen in over a decade, led by Select Committee Chair Kathy Castor. But in order for our legislation to become law, for our efforts to be translated into action, we need and must elect Joe Biden president. Under the Biden presidency, together we can take our country to 100% clean energy, net zero emissions future, advance environmental justice, and combat the disparities in health disproportionately hurt communities of color. Rally our global allies and private sector partners to the fight, and put an end to the denial of science, disdain for government, and disregard for Americans' lives that we have seen these past 4 years. In these final days, your engagement and organizing will be more vital than ever. You know what we say, we don't agonize, we organize. Every call that you make, every text you send, every voter you reach, each brings us closer to victory. Together, we will defend and grow our House Democratic majority. We will win a Democratic Senate, and we will elect President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. Thank you for all of your hard work. Onward to victory.
Hi, I'm Nidhi Tacker, a national co-chair for Clean Energy for Biden. I want to say a very big thank you to Speaker Pelosi for that inspirational reminder of how critical this election is for the soul of our nation, our democracy, and our country's future. You've already seen many examples of why Clean Energy for Biden is a remarkable group, and I'm here to highlight yet one more: fundraising. Since our first kickoff fundraiser in April on Earth Day, the CE4B community of over 10,500 volunteers has bonded together to raise more than $3.2 million and host more than 100 events. We've had events featuring the Vice President himself, Lisa Jackson, Mayor Garcetti, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Questlove, Natalie Portman, our distinguished Executive Council members, and too many other amazing climate leaders to name. This would not have been possible without the dedication, leadership, and support of our incredible volunteers, and in particular, our over 24 state and affinity groups. A big shout out to the DMV team, which raised over $250,000 with their 12 events. And you can learn more about the contributions from other state and affinity groups on our interactive map at cleanenergyforbiden.com and throughout today's program. I'd like to share a quote from one of our super volunteers, Vicki Corman, which really captures the work of our entire team involved in our fundraising efforts. I quote, "CE4B rallied hungry voters and rockstar panelists to support the Biden-Harris campaign ticket, advocate for our planet, and advance the dialogue on an equitable and cleaner future," end quote. I had the pleasure of working with the Finance Council and want to thank this group on behalf of CE4B for their countless hours. I can say without a doubt that they were instrumental in helping CE4B reach its double stretch goal of over $3 million raised. And with that, it's my pleasure to share a video from some of these incredible council members. Thank you.
The Clean Energy and Finance Committee is an awesome group of 40 plus climate tech investors and business leaders here to not only raise money for the campaign, but to support the Biden administration as it reestablishes America's leadership on climate change.
A few short months ago, we came together and said we can do something as a group. This incredible group of clean energy entrepreneurs and founders brought tens of thousands of volunteers together and donors to make a massive difference around our clean energy future collectively. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
What I love about this community is that many of us have worked together for decades as advocates and innovators, business leaders and investors. And now here we are helping to change the world by bringing the Biden-Harris administration forward. Look forward to the election day and look forward to working together to make it happen. Let's do this.
Hi, my name is Ken Alston. I formerly served in President Obama's Department of Energy. I'm now a national co-chair of Clean Energy for Biden. I want to give a shout out first to our C4B Wyoming chapter. 12 people strong, people who have phone banking hard and reached hundreds of voters. Thank you. Let me also spend some time acknowledging the incredible work of Clean Energy for Biden's Executive Council, pictured here on this slide. These are more than 50 representatives from the business, policy, and nonprofit worlds who have been a key part of C4B's success. You lent your expertise to our fundraising and GOTV events with topics including financing the clean economy, Black energy CEOs, climate change, the national security priority, greening the grid, and an international climate and energy security discussion. These executives have worked so hard over the past 6 months, helping all of C4B to make the case that we must elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. In a moment, you'll be hearing from 2 of our executive council members in a video. But again, I want to say to all of our leadership, especially these executive council members, thank you so much for all of your work over these past 6 months. And let's win on November 3rd.
My name is Christine Harada. I'm proud to be a part of the Executive Council of Clean Energy for Biden. Clean Energy for Biden is a network of business leaders and advocates united to elect the Biden-Harris ticket and to advance America's clean economy.
We've recruited more than 10,000 members across the country, raised more than $3 million for the Biden campaign. We've done more than 100 events. We've held 16 get out the vote phone banks per week into every battleground state. Make sure that you and your friends have a plan to vote. Let's go win this thing on November 3rd.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nathan Wyeth. I'm proud to have been part of bringing this group together and working with all of you. We've accomplished an incredible amount, but at the end of the day, it's exactly what I knew we were capable of together. It's my pleasure to give a shout out to a couple teams, one in the Midwest that's been a huge focus geographically this year. In Iowa, we had an event with John Kerry and our next senator from Iowa, Teresa Greenfield. They raised tens of thousands of dollars in a state that's going to be as close as anywhere. I also want to give a shout out to the Oregon team, which held an event with Governor Kate Brown and has now been phone banking into Iowa and into Minnesota, even as they've dealt with the destruction of wildfires right around them. And so it's just deep appreciation for what that team has done in the middle of everything else. So still ahead on our agenda, we have John Favreau, we have Governor Gavin Newsom. But before we jump into that, I want to bring the focus back to what we can each be doing during these last 5 critical days. So I'm coming to you from Arizona, where I was out knocking doors with my Biden-Harris mask today. We're canvassing, we're doing it safe. If you can get yourself to Philly or Phoenix or Detroit or any of the other key places, your time and energy is needed. If you can't, there's 2 things I want to ask of everyone. First, download the VoteJoe app and use it to help you figure out who you know in key states who needs to hear from you about voting. It might be a little awkward to text that friend from high school and ask them if they voted, but it will be worth it. The second thing that I want to ask everybody to do is to sign up for 3 phone bank shifts. Over the next 5 days, we've got phone banks on Friday evening, all day Saturday, all day Sunday, Monday evening, and all day on election day. And like Cam said, the votes that we don't yet have, that are still out, are the ones that we need the most. I promise you, if you join these phone banks, you will talk to undecided voters. You will talk to people who need the information of how to vote. You will talk to people who need that little extra push. I think each of us have asked ourselves this cycle, what is enough? When will I know if I've done enough? I think I just looked to President Obama. He said, he has been saying for months, whatever you've done so far, it's not enough. It's not enough until the votes are in and we've won. So what our ask from everyone here tonight is sign up for 3 phone banks. We've got them all weekend. They'll work for your schedule. It's 6 hours to put towards the most important election of our time. So I will see you there. We'll see you on the doors. If you need a little more inspiration while you're signing up for those 3 phone bank shifts, we're going to get to hear from a few more of our incredible state teams.
The great state of Georgia, Clean Energy for Biden, helped make Georgia a battleground state. Georgia is a top 10 state for solar, and over 120 clean energy professionals raised $35,000 and reached thousands of voters. Thank you so much.
Welcome from the great state of Wisconsin. While we could not celebrate in person, we were proud to host a Clean Energy for Biden live at the DNC live stream happy hour to bring the flavor of Milwaukee and Wisconsin to all of you.
Hi, from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Our Clean Energy for Biden team held 4 events, attracting 250 donors and raising over $45,000. We had conversations around issues ranging from environmental justice in Philadelphia to the energy jobs transition in Pittsburgh to clean energy and agricultural opportunities in the central part of the state. Thank you.
Hello from Colorado, where we held events on the intersections of clean energy and the future of food, climate justice, national security, and we phone bank the heck out of the state every Monday.
Hello from the golden state of California. Here in beautiful Northern California, we have been at it since April, hosting weekly, very well-attended phone banks calling every weekend into our adopted state of Wisconsin, hosting several educational forums on Biden's forward-thinking climate policy. And we're here to save democracy and save our planet. Thank you.
Hello from Washington State. We already make a hell of a lot of clean energy, but we're excited to have this next administration make a hell of a lot more.
We held 4 events, had 20 speakers, have over 200 active members, made 300 phone calls, and raised $50,000 for Joe Biden.
We hosted 2 events that featured over 150 people. We've recruited half dozen poll workers, over a dozen poll observers. We're now running all the out-of-state volunteers coming to Ohio to be poll observers. We have hosted and staffed over 139 phone banking shifts, and we built an email list of over 200 people to help turn the Buckeye State green after we succeed in making Joe Biden our president. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rose McKinney James, a member of the Clean Energy for Biden Executive Council and a proud member of the Nevada Clean Energy for Biden team. And wow, I couldn't be prouder of the work that's been undertaken around the country with everyone leaning in toward a common goal. It's been my pleasure to join for events in Florida, Pennsylvania, and Nevada. And as a result of your hard work, as evidenced by today's event, we've garnered the attention and the support of so many awesome leaders across the country. We've had the opportunity to elevate the need to embed the urgency of climate change and the role of clean energy into the national conversation. And we are so excited with the progress that we've made to date. And I am particularly proud of our efforts to acknowledge and expand the role of diversity and inclusion in these efforts. We know that in order for any transition to be successful, it must be a just transition. And by expanding our reach and the nature of our voices, we're working to change the direction of our country. We engaged in a national, inclusive, grassroots effort to provide support for Joe Biden. And we were thrilled when it became Biden-Harris. We've activated efforts in more than 42 states and affinity groups within the Clean Energy for Biden effort. We have members in all 50 states. These states are raising crucial campaign resources, conducting strategic and value-added outreach and GOTV, and providing a platform for underscoring the importance and urgency of climate and clean energy policy. While this has been an incredibly exciting and rewarding time, the work continues. We know that our work is not yet done. And importantly, we still have 5 important days ahead of us, and we can't take a moment to stop. We need to keep the pressure on and continue to elevate the importance of this movement. And I want to thank you so much for all that you've done to stand up this movement and encourage you to stay focused, keep your eyes on the prize. We hope to make this a sustainable effort and trust that you will continue to be engaged post-election. But for now and over the next few days, please, please, please continue to work collaboratively toward that all-important goal of electing Joe Biden as the next president of these United States.
Hi, I'm Brandon Hurlbut. Do we have Fabs on yet?
Here I am.
All right, all right. I'm Brandon Hurlbut. I'm a co-chair of Clean Energy for Biden. I co-founded a climate advisory firm, and I'm a clean tech investor as well. I met our guest here, Jon Favreau, while working together on the Obama 08 campaign and working together in the White House. He had much bigger job than I did. But then I went over to the DOE and I served as chief of staff for several years, where I had brown hair until the BP oil spill of Fukushima and Hurricane Sandy. I also co-host a podcast called Political Climate, which is humbling to say in front of John, because it would be like someone in the band Mumford and Sons saying they are in a band while talking to one of the Beatles. So you all know John Favreau as the co-founder of Crooked Media and co-host of Pod Save America. He was Obama's head speechwriter from 2005 to 2013. And today, as part of our fireside chat, I want to talk about John, the politics of clean energy and climate and the election, and some climate messaging. So first, John, let's talk about you.
Sure.
You just became a father.
I did.
In 2050, your son, Charlie, will be about the same age as you were when you were writing speeches with Barack Obama. The decisions we're making today are going to impact climate for the next few decades. I'm wondering, has becoming a father influenced your thinking at all on climate change?
Yeah, and I think, and I used to think before I was a father that people saying that about their kids was like a cliche, and I didn't quite get it. And Charlie was born July 23rd, and so within the first month, the first 2 months of him being born, we were trapped in our house because the air was so bad because of the fires. There was a fire in LA, but then there were also a bunch of fires even in Northern California, and the air was, the air was so bad throughout the whole state that Emily, my wife, and I were just sitting there like, I can't believe, we brought this child into the world in the middle of a pandemic and a climate emergency. And it really does, it hits you in a different way when you have a child, for sure.
All right, let's move to the election. So you finally got Biden on Pod Save America.
Finally.
Where Pfeiffer and Lovett discussed climate in detail with him. I'm wondering, what were your takeaways from that interview?
I mean, my takeaway was, especially around the climate question, is his passion for the topic, the level of detail he offered, the fact that it seemed like he is truly prioritizing climate above a lot of other issues he could have talked about was very impressive and hopeful. And it was surprising to me that he went into that much detail and talked for that long about climate. And I'm really glad that Lovett asked him the question, but I think he's serious. I think he's serious about making it one of the top, if not the top priorities of his administration.
Mm-hmm. That's good to hear. How have you seen the politics of energy and climate evolve over the last few years? And how do you think it's impacting this election, both at the presidential level and in some of these Senate races?
I think two major things. One, there's been a sea change in public opinion around climate over the last several years, certainly very different than when we were in the White House, when we were in the Obama administration. I think that, and I think some Democrats haven't realized this yet, that we should not be defensive about climate like we have been for so long, that we should be confident about the politics of climate. We're always confident about the sort of the moral element to climate change, but we should also be confident about the politics as well. Data for Progress is a progressive group that does a lot of really great polling, high quality polling. And they've been asking, after that last debate where there was that ridiculous, the media treated it as like a pretend gaffe that, Joe Biden said he wanted to transition away from fossil fuels, which, by the way, only 28% of voters opposed transitioning away from the oil industry. 52% of independents support transitioning away, and 41% of Republicans do. But after that debate, Data for Progress tested two arguments. One, Joe Biden plans to invest $2 trillion over the next 4 years to create millions of good-paying jobs and new clean energy infrastructure projects that will transform our economy and leave the world a better place for our children. And then they tested a pretty solid opposition argument from Trump and the Republicans. Joe Biden and AOC want to take away hamburgers and airplanes, raise your electricity bills by hundreds of dollars a month, and take nice windows and make them all tiny, all for the radical Green New Deal that will kill jobs. The split in favor of Biden's plan and the pro argument was 61-22 in favor of Joe Biden's plan, even with that other argument. And that includes even 59% of independents and even 35% of Republicans chose the Joe Biden argument over the Donald Trump argument on that. So again, like there has been a sea change. And I think one of the reasons there's been a sea change in public opinion is climate is now an issue that has activists and organizers behind it in a big way, right? Like it's not just scientists and people in politics screaming from the rooftops that we have to do something. The Sunrise Movement and just an entire generation of young people, they've always been, in favor of drastic action on climate change, but now they're actually organizing and doing something, and they're a political force, and that's new. And we didn't have that, at least to the extent that we do now, back when we were in the White House.
You have sat in many focus groups. For all of the listeners today, if you want to learn about politics, you should download John's The Wilderness. It's just amazing way to learn about politics. And so, from your experience in these focus groups on climate messaging, do you think, to the point you're making now about some of the polling, that we've finally gotten the messaging right, or have they just caught up, to the messaging that we've been using? Because there's been this debate, I think, in the community about, do we be honest about the consequences, the dramatic weather events and catastrophic things, but that's sort of a doom and gloom, fearful message. Do we concentrate on just purely jobs? But then you have the Green New Deal, which is branded after the most famous and historic jobs program ever. And even that has been a little bit controversial, even with Democrats. So what do you think? What's your advice on climate messaging? Like, do we need to micro target better? Have we finally gotten it right? Or people just caught up to us? What do you think?
So it's interesting. When I first heard about the Green New Deal, I thought that not only is it ambitious policy, but it's really smart politics and smart messaging. And that's because talking about climate in a way where you present all of the opportunities that a transition to a clean energy economy provides is very appealing to people. When you can talk about the economy, you can talk about jobs. Now, like Fox News and the right had a field day with the Green New Deal because, they decided to talk about hamburgers and windows and AOC, right? Like they did all that kind of shit. So they have tried to brand it poorly. But I think the idea behind presenting climate and presenting the issue as not just something that we have to do to avoid catastrophe, but something that presents an incredible opportunity is very powerful. And I think, when I talk to people in focus groups, like they'll bring up climate because of the effects that they see in their lives. So they'll, I was in Florida and people will talk about hurricanes and how they're getting worse. And people in other parts of the country can talk about fires and talk about drought, right? Like, so you hear the negative effects come up. But when you talk about what the future could look like if we act, and the fact that future is not just avoiding the worst, but actually creating incredible opportunity, technology, jobs, like that's what I think takes public opinion on it to the next level.
What do you think we need to do to get more Democrats talking about that on like cable news? Like if you see Fox, they're so focused. They talk about the Green New Deal more than like MSNBC and CNN combined. What do you think we need to do to get Democrats that feel more comfortable leaning in on this?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think Joe Biden has thought about this in a smart way. So right now, it's hard to get people to talk about it unless there are climate disasters happening, right? Like, so if there are fires, then you get people talking about it. I think aside from that, like everything is so focused on Trump right now, right? Like it's like he's like a national psychic wound. That's all we can talk about. Like,
yes.
If, hopefully Joe Biden beats him next week, if that happens, if we're lucky enough to have Joe Biden as president. Look, we're in the middle of a horrible recession right now. And there's going to have to be economic relief packages and an economic relief. And I think framing what we do for the economy, and including in the policy of what we do for the economy, clean energy investments, and making it sort of a green energy relief package, I think is one way to get a lot of Democrats to talk about it. And when you look at Joe Biden's plan, his economic plan is his climate plan and vice versa. And I think that's why I think it is important to sort of link climate to the economy, because that's the way to get a lot of Democrats talking about it, and to point out that as we're going to lift this economy from recession, not only are we going to help people who are really struggling, but we're going to lay a new foundation for the future, and that foundation has to be an economy that is not run by fossil fuels. And by the way, I also think it's going to be much easier to, like, you don't have to explain to people why science is important as much anymore because we're in the middle of a pandemic. And
well, did you see this focus group that they were in Axios today, where over the last 2 or 3 months, more people are questioning, the net, positivity of, scientists and saying they're relying on it less? I mean, that seems like a big problem.
Well, I certainly think, like, we're going to have a Republican Party that is anti-science. Like, we know that for sure. But I think if you're talking about, the audience we're thinking about is not just Democrats, but sort of like politically disengaged people who don't follow the news and politics that much. And I think for those people, which is most of the country and most voters, you go through a pandemic and you see an administration not paying attention to the scientists or the doctors or the epidemiologists. There's sort of a much shorter leap from that to thinking, oh yeah, maybe we should be listening to the scientists when they're telling us that the planet's on fire as well.
You think a lot about how media, covers politics. Do you think they cover climate accurately? I mean, how do you think about that? I mean, does the person today in Louisiana who's boarding up their home because of Hurricane Zeta, which is crazy that we're on the Z of the alphabet for hurricanes, do you think they're connecting that, to climate?
I think they are doing a better job. I have seen them do a better job over the last year, 2 years, but they are still, the coverage is still woefully inadequate. There are still far too many newscasts, especially the networks, the nightly news, that when they talk about fires in California or droughts or terrible storms, they are not linking it to climate because they think that that is partisan. And like the most important thing in the world is for them to seem balanced, right? And so suddenly, like, listening to science and talking about science is a partisan issue. And I think the only solution there is to do what Republicans do and work the refs and, shame the media into covering this the way they should. And also, like, we try to cover this stuff at Crooked and have more progressive media organizations cover it and talk about it. That's the and to have, movements like the Sunrise Movement continue to organize and pressure not just politicians but the media as well.
So you think you'll be covering it more on the pod? Should we retire political climate? Get rid of the competition?
Right. You guys have but we haven't done enough either, and we want to. I think, again, this is one of the many nice things if we get rid of Trump is that there's like more space to talk about other issues that actually matter to people than just focusing on the asshole in the White House.
Yeah. What do you think? Let's play this out. Let's say everybody that's listening in today works really hard over these last 5 days. We have an amazing get out the vote effort, and we have a really decisive victory where a lot of these states that are close go our way. We have, a clear majority in the Senate, or 53, 54 seats or something. Do you think that shocks the Republicans enough where they might feel compelled to come back to the table and compromise and deal on this issue? Or do you think that they will double down on the crazy and continue to obstruct?
I think they will double down on the crazy and continue to obstruct. Look, in 2012, when Obama was running for re-election, he would famously say to all of us, if I win this, the fever will break in Washington and maybe these people will realize that they don't have a future as a party unless they're willing to compromise. And I believed it. I said it too. Didn't happen. Party's only gotten crazier since. Losing doesn't seem to change them at all. So I do think the best hope for action on climate is with just a Senate majority and a House majority and a Democratic president. And I think that means that you're going to have to get rid of the filibuster. I think there's no way to do anything meaningful on climate with the filibuster in place, because I do not think you'll get those Republicans. And on the hopeful side, I think last month, Brian Schatz sat down with Vox and talked about how there's more unity within the Democratic caucus than ever before on how to move forward on climate. And that's from everyone from, a caucus that includes Bernie Sanders and Joe Manchin. And, if God willing, we do well and we have a bunch more senators, like, you know, a lot of those senators are going to be more moderate because they come from red states and tough states. But I do think this is an issue that will appeal to more moderate voters, more independent voters, at least more so than it has in the past. So I think if I was Joe Biden, I would take my new Democratic Senate, my Democratic House. I would, you know, have a he'll being Joe Biden, he'll say, okay, I want to work with you, Mitch McConnell. Let's try. And then Mitch McConnell will obstruct, and then that'll be it. We'll be off to the races, and then I would get rid of the filibuster and move forward on a big package.
Yep. Okay, final question. Babs, you've been so gracious with your time with us today. So Clean Energy for Biden, we now have 10,000, members, and we've raised, all this money. It's been a really successful organization. We're starting to think about, okay, well, how do we continue this on past the election? We didn't envision that when we started it. So what advice do you have on political advocacy for a group like this? Is hopefully you're in the same spot where we're going to be pivoting from being the resistance, to now going in and advocating with our team. What do you suggest as a way for this group to stay politically engaged?
I think it is very important to always maintain an inside game and an outside game. And by that, I mean, do everything you can to pressure the lawmakers we need to pressure to pass legislation. But in order to make them feel the pressure, you need a sufficient outside game. You need to make a lot of noise. You need to control the media narrative. You need to probably have enough money to run ads, right? Like if there was anything we could have done differently back in the Obama administration, I would say, like, treat every day like it's a campaign, right? Because again, the Republican Party has an entire propaganda machine. They don't have to pay for they're not running ads. They don't have to run ads, right? They just have Fox News beamed into everyone's house and Ben Shapiro and all their fucking bullshit. We don't have that. We need to have that. We need to build that. And in the absence of that, we at least need to be like communicating with voters any way we can, whether that's television ads, whether that's digital, whatever it may be. The Sunrise Movement has some of the most creative ad campaigns, digital ads that I've ever seen in politics. And I would continue to invest in that creativity, make sure that we're reaching voters wherever they are, so that as we're lobbying lawmakers to pass climate, we're also making sure that we make this a national issue that we're talking about a lot. So that would be my advice.
Great. Thank you so much, Fabs. And before I turn it over, I just want to say I've been lucky to be a part of many fulfilling things in my career, and Clean Energy for Biden has been such a special group. There's a great camaraderie and so much talent, people rolling up their sleeves, doing great work. And one of those persons is Nicole Steele, a fellow co-chair, and I've really gotten to know her during this effort and really appreciated that. So Nicole, you're up.
Thanks so much, Brandon, and thanks so much, John. Apologies for my weird stalkerness in the background. I know folks could see me, but we wanted those smooth transitions. And before I jump in, I really want to give a huge shout out to Team Arizona. Team Arizona was actually able to get an op-ed placed during their time called "Vote Like the Earth Depends on You," which is incredibly inspirational. They were also able to host an event and raise over $13,000. So many of you may know me from the weekly national phone banks. And so you get me again. If you don't know me, my name is Nicole Steele. I am also a co-chair of Clean Energy for Biden. And you have one more chance to join me on Election Day, November 3rd, to do last minute phone banking to really get out the vote in Nevada and Arizona. I do want to cover a little bit about that because it's such an important piece of what I've been doing over the last 5-6+ months, and that I have to give a huge shout out to the 1,000+ participants in those 10 weeks of phone banking. To date, we have made calls into Florida, Arizona, Nevada, North Carolina. We've had amazing keynote speakers from Tom Steyer and Harold Mitchell Jr. to Peggy Shepard to Representative Kathy Castor, Representative Deb Haaland, Senator Brian Schatz, and the former Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid. It has been my honor over the last 10 weeks to not only host those individuals, to get folks inspired and motivated on a weekly basis. Really, you guys who make it happen. They're the ones on the phone day in and day out, calling voters, ensuring that they know what to do, where to go, and just that friendly reminder to make sure that folks are getting out there and not forgetting to vote. So here's my shameless plug to make sure that you are signing up to phone bank at least 3 times in the next 5 days, and you will get this amazing mug if you join us on the last day on our national phone bank in the last hours as we close out the West Coast. With that said, I actually joined CE4B, and I am so honored to be part of this group and part of the co-chair group. I joined back in May and jumped on the very first rally call. And the very first thing that I noticed was how white and how male that call was. And I could not let that go. And so one of the things that I immediately did is I signed on to this weird thing called Slack and figured out how to message people and said, what do folks think about creating an equity, inclusion, and diversity initiative within this organization? It is imperative that we are doing this work in this industry, but it's also imperative that we're doing this work at CE4B. So after that was created, within days, the murder of George Floyd happened, and CE4B doubled down on its commitment to justice, equity, inclusion, and diversity, and really set a tone of intentionality to diverse membership, diverse leadership, ensuring that our fundraisers and our policy paper topics have that EID lens. We are 100 members strong, the EID group. We were able to raise over $125,000. We reviewed every single policy paper that we created. And we're also proud to say that we had a pretty good split when it comes to our fundraisers and other events. There was a 50-50 gender split, a 70-30 BIPOC to white people split for those who were on our events. And there was a moment that I just really remembered when I came on board and I was recruiting executive council members, and I had reached out to Devin Hampton, and we were going back and forth on whether or not he had time to participate in CE4B. And then he just sent me a note and said, I've been head down spinning up a collection of companies to fight diversity issue in clean tech. But that ain't gonna move the needle much if we don't take back the White House. And that was such an incredibly powerful moment. So glad that folks like Devin and Rose and Jigger and others that are on the line already tonight really are able to sort of take up that charge and that lead that effort as we continue to do this work. I'll also mention that we have an equity night coming up within our policy series, our policy summit series on November 23rd at 7 p.m. I must tease that Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Governor Newsom are coming up next, so you won't have to listen to me much longer. And I have to give a huge shout out to David Kiva, who has been our campaign connect with the Biden campaign. He is who really made all of those members show up to, all those surrogates show up to the phone banks. He's been really incredibly thoughtful with the development of climate voters for Biden. And we are forever in debt to the work that he has put in to build climate voters for Biden and really support CE4B and that liaison between the campaign. So with that said, I just want to also mention that we look forward to continuing this fight past the election. There will be a future of CE4B, and we're incredibly excited and committed to engaging the clean energy industry as we chart this course. So for now, let's focus on the next 5 days and ensure that we get Joe Biden and Kamala Harris into the White House. So thank you very much, and I'm going to hand it over to Audrey.
Thank you, Nicole. I'm Audrey Lee. I'm also co-chair of Clean Energy for Biden and a very proud member of the Grassroots Growth Team, which we work to, the Grassroots Growth Team works to start state and affinity teams across the country, including New Mexico and the Utah state teams, who combined raised more than $30,000 and had great get out the vote events with keynotes like Governor Lujan, Grisham, and Bill McKibben. Thank you so much, New Mexico and Utah Clean Energy for Biden. Now, I also have the pleasure of introducing our next speaker. I left DC and federal government 9 years ago, moved back to California, and joined the California Public Utilities Commission because I wanted to move faster on decarbonization. And we certainly have in California through renewable energy, demand flexibility, storage, and other technologies, including California Governor's executive order for all new powered vehicles to be zero emission by 2035. And we all know that decarbonization can be synonymous with inclusive economic growth, resiliency, and reliability. And case in point, zero emission vehicles are already California's second largest global export market and will become a flexible resource for grid reliability and backup power. And we can and must do the same on the federal level. Biden has committed to ensuring 100% of new sales for light and medium duty vehicles will be electric. I'm really looking forward to a new era of collaboration between state leaders like Governor Newsom and the Biden administration. But first, we must do everything we can these last few days to overwhelmingly win this election. Over on this call, we've gotten 225 phone bank signups. Thank you so much. I'm now asking all of you, let's add 100 more. Please go to the link in the chat window to our website and sign up for 3 phone banks for the next 5 days. And I personally promise to buy any and all of you a beer or a coffee the next time we're able to do so if you do this. So please do that. And now please join me in welcoming California Governor Gavin Newsom.
Thanks, Audrey. Thanks for having me, and thank you for everything you're doing, and for everything everybody that's tuning in is doing. And trust me, I'm well aware and very familiar with the fact I'm the only guy standing in between all of you and Julia, which is the real reason you all turned in. So I'll try to be as brief and succinct as possible, but I want to just express deep appreciation for the subject matter that brings us all here together. You know, I am proud, number one, to represent arguably the most un-Trump state in the United States of America, California, the 5th largest economy in the world, 40 million Californians, the most diverse state in the world's most diverse democracy, where by and large people are living together and advancing together across every conceivable difference. It's a special place, and I'm speaking to you from a special place, interestingly, from the same office that Governor Ronald Reagan sat in at a time when Governor Reagan, a Republican, was working then with a Republican president in the name of Richard Nixon to advance the principles of the Clean Air Act. Governor Reagan, who helped create the California Air Resources Board that established the framework to begin to regulate tailpipe emissions, the first state in our union to do so. I say that for no other reason than to make this point. The issue that brings us together used to be a bipartisan issue. It wasn't just about Democrats. It was about Republicans and Democrats that share the commons together. None of us want to breathe dirty air, drink dirty water. I don't know what the hell has happened in this country over the last few decades that this issue of clean energy, low carbon, and green growth has divided this country. It shouldn't. And that's why I'm here as a strong advocate, not just for this issue, but for a future administration, a Biden-Harris administration, that not only get it, but are going to advance these efforts and get real things done. I just want to paint a picture for you, give you a sense of the headwinds here, at least in California. We're involved in over 100 lawsuits with the Trump administration. Over half of them are in this space. Over half, 58 lawsuits against the Trump administration related to our environment and his vandalism of the Clean Air Act and the Clean Power Plan and our Endangered Species Act. And you go down the list. We're fighting the good fight, and we're holding our own. We're winning the overwhelming majority of these lawsuits. But again, it's setting back our agenda to accelerate our efforts and apply our ideals and manifest our ideals in a way that we will be able to achieve when Joe Biden is sworn in as our next president. And so this is profound. And I say it's profound for another self-evident reason. We have just dealt with an historic wildfire season, likes of which we've never seen in our state's history. 4.2 million acres have burned, 3.8 million just since August 14th. Just since August 14th, 3.8 million acres have burned. We had 11,000 lightning strikes over a 70 2-hour period. We had a heat dome on the entire west coast of the United States, in Oregon and Washington, Nevada and Arizona and elsewhere. We had the hottest recorded temperature, arguably in the history of mankind. We're still adjudicating that claim. It wasn't in sub-Saharan Africa. It was right here in California, over 130 degrees in Death Valley, just 8 or so weeks ago. The hottest August in the history of our state, the hottest September in the history of our state. The hots are getting hotter. The dries are getting drier. A 5-year historic drought, 2011, arguably 6-year to 2017, 163 million trees that died because of that historic drought. Hot's getting hotter, dry's getting drier. And as we move into the winter months with these atmospheric rivers, arguably now the wets are going to get a lot wetter. Climate change is real. The smash mouth realities of climate change are here, they're present, and they're profound. We're heating up, we're choking up, we're burning up. This is real. These were things we predicted that would happen in 10, 15, 20 years. They're happening today. And so that reality is set in self-evidently across, again, not just jurisdictions here in the state as it relates to different counties, but also, I would argue, across parties. Overwhelming majority of Californians support our fully functioning cap and trade program. Overwhelming majority of our California residents, Republicans and Democrats, not just independents, support our efforts to decarbonize our economy and accelerate our efforts to get to 100% renewables, to begin the just transition anew with more urgency and intentionality as it relates to the issue of production of fossil fuels. And I appreciate, Audrey, you recognizing one of the efforts we advanced to accelerate our demand side of that equation by saying, you know what, enough of playing small ball and being the margin. Let's get serious about the number one area where we must get serious, and that's our transportation in this country. We're not going to be serious about climate change. We're not going to be serious about greenhouse gas emission reductions unless we're serious about decarbonizing our transportation fleet. And so in California, it represents over half, quite literally over half, 41% of what happens comes out of the tailpipe emissions and greenhouse gases in California, but an additional 10+% from production of fuels to energize that transportation fleet. And that's why we decided to put an anchor down and this mandate to 2035 to only sell in our state alternative fuel vehicles. What was remarkable about that, and this is something I just want to communicate, I don't have much time and I'll try to sum everything up. What was remarkable about that executive order to accelerate this trend on electrification and alternative fuels is that Bill Ford, the iconic Ford Motor Company, F-150 Ford Motor Company, came out the next day with a statement saying, we're not going to cede the future, and we embrace the core principles that California was trying to advance. And I say that not to impress you, any of you, quite the contrary, but to impress upon you, one of the largest, most iconic manufacturers in this country, and one of the most impactful and important around the world in terms of their exports, made the argument that we're making, that it's in their interest, economic interest, not just environmental interests of our consumers, to advance and accelerate our decarbonization efforts in the transportation sector. And that's what a Joe Biden and Kamala Harris administration will allow for, the notion of federalism, progressive federalism, for states to work with other states and develop strategies and organize principles to accelerate these low carbon green growth goals. And, you know, I'll just close on this. You know, there's an old saw that says, you don't like the way the world looks when you're standing up, stand on your head and go local. Remarkable things are happening in the green tech space in states large and small all across this country. Governor Inslee and I are part of a coalition, a bipartisan coalition of governors representing 55% of the population of this country that are moving on our clean car promise, that are moving to aggressively decarbonize our economy. And we see it in closing as an essential tool to accelerate our economic growth. Here's a fun fact for all those dystopian pundits about California. 7 months ago, we announced that over the last 5 years, California has had an average GDP growth of 3.8%, outperforming the rest of the nation. The highest reserves, our highest bond ratings in 30 years, 120 consecutive months of net job growth. That didn't happen despite our green energy policies, but because of them. 34 manufacturing companies now in the state of California that are alternative fuel manufacturers. Audrey said it, second largest export in California is now in our automobile manufacturers, our EV automobile manufacturers. 5-to-1 green jobs versus fossil fuel jobs already in the state of California. This is an economic imperative. The opportunity to focus on equity, to bring people together, to focus on justice, environmental justice, but also social justice, racial justice, as we clean our air and clean our water, bring down the costs of these technologies by accelerating their application and the innovation and the spirit that defines the best of America and the dream that is still alive and well, not just the United States, despite the vandalism of the last 4 years, but also the dream that's attached to one other state, the California dream. And that's why I'm very proud, very honored that all of you are here on this fundamental and essential issue at this hinge moment in American and world history to accelerate this agenda and to get Kamala Harris, our own, and Joe Biden in the White House. Don't run the 90-yard dash over the next 5 days. Put everything you can, because everything truly is on the line. And I thank you all for your attention to this issue and your extraordinary support for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
That was amazing. Thank you so much, Governor Newsom. I'm inspired. Hey, everybody, I'm Molly Bow. It's been my distinct pleasure to help produce tonight's capstone celebration. We hope you've been fired up hearing about the clean energy and climate momentum we've got going coast to coast and north to south. It takes a village to put a movement like this together. And there are so many unsung heroes who never see the spotlight, but who are so essential in keeping the trains running on time. From our communications team, our policy gurus, our web guys, and all the operational, tactical, and practical people that keep our phone and text banks hopping and our press releases popping. Tonight, I want to give a special shout out to my co-producer, Daniel Verna, who's wrangling our visuals, and Corey Connolly, who's making the Zoom machine work. To our video producers, the Sim Los Angeles team, and Genevieve Nowicki and her hubby, y'all are, in a word, awesome. For our last roll call video, we're gonna pull the curtains back and give you a glimpse of the rock star behind the scenes volunteers who've been working their hearts out for 6 months across our 30 state and affinity groups. They are the engine making urgent climate action and environmental justice possible. And we couldn't be more grateful. Thanks, guys.
I'm Matt. And I'm Noah with the operations team. And we're really excited about the 34,000 unique visitors we had to the website.
Tell our story on social media, via email, leveraging the website, using graphics, and marketing our events.
We are the CE4B Building Back Better Issue Papers Production Team. This grassroots effort harnesses the intellectual power of more than 200 authors, representing all major sectors of the clean energy economy.
Together, we developed 48 policy papers with 400 pages of content that were summarized into an interactive table that's going to be super easy for the transition team to access as it relates to Biden's climate plan.
This team, along with everyone you see on this screen, have really been the backbone and the infrastructure to Clean Energy for Biden. We've worked nights, weekends, on top of day jobs, kids, COVID, you name it. We really all pulled together every resource we could find to make sure all of our fundraising, grassroots, and get out the vote efforts have been a success so that we can get a solid win come November 3rd. So thank you all so much for everything that you've put into this campaign. We're really excited.
Hi there. I don't know if I'm on. I hope so.
You are.
I am. Fabulous. Well, first of all, I want to say a huge thank you to the entire Clean Energy for Biden team. You've put clean energy and climate front and center in this race, right where they belong. Hi, everybody. I'm Julia Louis-Dreyfus. I used to go to work every day and goof around with my friends and try to make people laugh. Remember laughing? Remember work? Remember friends? I often say that when we started Veep, we thought it was a political satire. We had no idea it was actually a documentary. And I mean, Jesus, at this point, Veep seems more like the West Wing, to tell you the truth. I mean, don't you wish this was just a regular election, like we were choosing between two reasonable people who differed on the substance of their policies, but could agree on things like, oh, I don't know, like the sky is blue. But guess what? It's not a normal election. It's not even a kind of weird election. It's more like a horror movie where we're all yelling at the screen, no, don't go into the basement. And yet 44% of the country is gladly heading for the basement. It's so nuts that it's very hard to focus on the good news, which from a climate perspective is this. Joe Biden has the strongest climate plan ever presented by a presidential candidate. And I know I sound like a broken record agreeing with all the other broken records you've heard tonight, but he believes in science. And don't you find it absolutely incredible that we have to say that? We're not talking about candidates who disagree on the fringes of policy wonkery here. You know, we're talking about one candidate who will tell you the truth about the dangers of the climate crisis, and another candidate who will steal your wallet, burn your house down, grab your wife's privates, blame it on immigrants while he pardons himself and gives your PIN number to Ivanka. Now, that's not a perfect analogy, but you get the idea. It's not a close call here. One guy knows that there's a crisis and the other guy doesn't know anything. So when we rally for Joe Biden, when we ask our friends and family and coworkers to make a plan to vote, when we march up to the early voting precinct and pull that lever or touch that screen, which is something I did today, or drop our ballot in that box, we are voting for something. We are voting for decency, integrity, honesty, democracy, the rule of law. I'm not a one-issue voter, but I do believe that the one issue that is tied to almost every other issue is climate. Joe Biden gets that. Donald Trump does not. I mean, maybe Trump would be more interested in climate if climate had bought more rooms at the Trump Hotel. I don't know. Look, we've only got a few days left. So as we wrap up here, let me just remind you guys of just a couple of things that we've been talking about. If you haven't already, download and use the Vote Joe app, please. Talk to your friends, your family, your friends' families, everyone you can, and inspire them to vote. And then be ready to help them vote if they need help. We're encouraging everyone tonight to sign up for at least 3 phone bank shifts on cleanenergyforbiden.com/voter outreach. It's easy and fun, and you will honestly feel like you're helping change the world because guess what? You are. Let's throw the bums out and elect Joe Biden and Democrats up and down the ballot. Look, I am an American patriot. I love this country, and therefore I hate its blemishes, and it has plenty of blemishes. What the Republicans have done for 4 years is a terrible stain upon our nation's history. Their shame should live in their hearts forever. We've got a lot to do to repair what is broken and fulfill the promises of this country and build back better together. So let's start at the ballot box. Keep your foot on the gas. Like Governor Inslee's dad said, run through the tape and vote. Please vote. Thanks, guys.
It is my absolute honor to say the following words. Thank you, Julia, for wrapping up a fantastic Capstone Rally. Your vigor and your enthusiasm and your words of advice I'm sure resonate with the 518 folks who have stuck around. We had over 750 people here with us tonight. We broke records. This was by far the largest Clean Energy for Biden community event. So thank you. And thank you to all of these names on this slide behind the words thank you. We are so grateful for everybody's work. And the best part about this is the names that you're looking at are just a fraction of everybody who's been involved. So to channel my inner telethon voice here, we have 300 signups already committed to doing 3 phone banks this weekend. Our goal was 325. So if 25 of the remaining 500 folks on this line sign up or sign up their cousin and voluntold them, we would break that record, we would hit our goals, and we will absolutely run through that tape, as you heard all of our speakers say multiple times. Blood, sweat, tears, and phone calls are going to be what does it this year. Thank you, everybody, for showing up, and thank you for all you're doing. We really appreciate it. From Clean Energy for Biden, nothing but peace and love. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, everybody.
Go, go, go.
Come on.